All right. Hello, folks. Uncle Jack's having a fun time today, obviously. But I promised I would do this, so I have a moment to do it, so I'm going to do it. We're going to do an AMA. If anyone's listening in live, feel free to, you know, request to speak if you have a question. But I'm going to be reading from a list of questions that I got a whole while back, like a few weeks ago. I posted AMA, like ask me anything for next spaces. So I guess this is next spaces. And I'm going to be reading through some questions that I got there. We're going to be going through those. And again, if you have one of your own right now, just raise your hand or something, and we'll get you in. Let's do it. Start cold open. That's what they call it, right? We're gonna have a cold open on this one. So our friend Tim is asking how to discern between the desire that shows our fate from desires that will numb or distract us from our fate. Okay, bit of a convoluted thing, but mm, I know we talk about these topics a lot, and I know in mainstream, esotericism, you'll encounter this idea a lot where you're fated to be doing certain things. And I subscribe to that idea. But I think it's very important to go beyond that surface layer when we're discussing something like fate, and to understand what fate is within the grander mechanism of, well, life itself. So, fate and fatedness is not the end result, so to speak. Um, Fatedness occurs when you live authentic to your imprint, meaning authentic to who you are. So your fate becomes fate the moment you embrace it. Otherwise, it's not fate. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not that, yes, the end point of your journey will converge into a singular point, into a singular end result. That's already decided. But how you get there is what adds complexity to your journey into this world, meaning how you get there teaches you different lessons and shows you different things. So, fate, when we talk about fate and the fatedness of anything, really, we mean it is whatever you're aligned with, right? That's why you can change your fate. The gods intervene, like we want to say, like in a poetic way, right? In a poetic manner. So it's not that your desire shows you your fate, and then there are some other antagonistic types of desires that show you not your fate. It's that your desires are born of your inherent imprint. Your desires are born out of the specificities of your body, of your frame of mind, your inner psychology, so to speak, right? And all of the mystical elements that make up who you are or who you think you are. So desire, in a way, is a sort of a map, but it has to be an inward map where you ask, um, what gave birth or what gives birth to this desire, and what kind of creature would have this sort of desire. If you want to understand what fatedness is, it is alignment with your authentic self, right? At the end of the day, we're all slaves to our nature, but our true nature. So there are two. There's the animalistic nature that we feel that is inherent to what we are, and then there is the higher nature. So you can surrender to your animalistic nature, which is not your true nature, by the way. It's not your highest nature, because you are a conscious being in a non-conscious world. So, non-conscious behavior, animalistic behavior, cannot possibly be your true nature, because again, your true nature is seen through the lens of consciousness. So that's how you know. It's not that there are good desires and bad desires, or beneficial desires or non-beneficial desires. It's that um, when you are you are only fated to complete your highest nature. Um, Whenever you're authentic to that imprint, to that nature, you will be on a fated path. Next question is by my brother Veritas, and he asks, "What does it mean to be a human?" Like you guys are not giving me an easy time with these questions, right? Because I feel like I have to do like a big disclaimer before answering any of these. Like it makes me feel like I never have a simple answer for these, but they're not. They're not. It's not on purpose, obviously. But so what does it mean to be a human? Well, um, there's several layers to that question. I think the most important layer is to understand what a human is and where a human body exists within this plane. So being a human first and foremost is being the vessel manifestation of the utmost center point of all things that exist. Um that is what the experience of being a human being is. You are a bridge connector to two of the most intense creative archetypal forces or energies. You exist at the middle point. Like the very act of creation itself, that is to be a human. You are a symptom of God, so to speak. You are a manifestation of whatever occurs at the dual precipice of two equally powerful opposite energies meeting and combining. That's what primarily is being human. And so you have to understand that at every point you're connecting two great forces of creation, and so you are born symptomatically of those two forces. And then because these two forces are converging within you, like into you, you also become a natural portal for a third energy of creation. And a third energy obviously is created when the masculine and the feminine um, energetically intermarry, um, and become betwixt, so to speak, right? So you are creation itself, walking, living, and breathing. That's why symptomatically you don't really necessarily understand where you came from and what created you and so on and so forth, and you have an ego based identity of, well, what do I think I am? And that's the whole journey, right? The backtracking, so to speak. Being human is an inevitable journey, an involuntary journey, so to speak, to understand the forces that created you, and then to understand your own capacity to create, right? By blending these two forces together. That's what being a human is. It is a living, breathing process of creation, the creative act, which is the first and foremost divine act, right? Um, Secret History of Caucasus podcast. That would have to be a series of podcasts for sure. I would love to do it, but um, the Caucasus, in my opinion, and I might be biased, and I don't do a lot of traveling, by the way, but from what people tell me and what I've read, manuscripts, knowledge from different parts of the world, the Caucasus is uh, possibly the most. It's not the most knowledgeable part of the world. It's not the most advanced part of modern society, but in my opinion, it is the most mystical place ever. Period. Um, and there are some serious clues and some serious hints in the Caucasus that's very neatly buried behind the mythologies of other cultures, and the Soviets, basically erased most of the mystical tradition. but it's almost like no matter what you research, you will get back to this location. There's something very special about the Caucasus. There's something very special about this location, and I feel I've intuitively always felt that it was a sort of a strange landing point of past civilization, or a landing point of mystical tradition. Because if you know the languages, the vast array of languages that exist in the Caucasus, I know a few of them, and the hidden names and the hidden meaning of things inlaid in the words that the things are called, right? Um, you I've never seen another language encompass these things so well. Not even the ancient language. So not even Greek, not even Hebrew, none of those languages where just knowing a word and deciphering the meaning of a word in Caucasian languages of something like, water or rock or stone or something like that, and understanding the root cause of that, like where it comes from, it gives you this incredible information about what that thing really is. So um, that's why the Caucasus and the languages, particularly of the Caucasus and the mystical tradition here, is, in my opinion, like incredibly informative. That people just don't have access to. Like you have access to tradition from the East, a plethora of documents and manuscripts from there. You have access to the great philosophers and thinkers of the West, but the Caucasus is an incredibly compact part of the world. It's a very compact area. The Caucasus alone probably has more languages than maybe even like the whole of Europe. More separate tribes and peoples and cultures that never really intermixed because of how mountainous the region is and how remote the region is. So there's an incredible mythos here that just gets overlooked, and I think it's a big puzzle piece that a lot of people are missing, especially the more pre-Christian pagan creation myths that supposedly start out from here, and it's just a very strange place. There are things that are found in the Caucasus that are way older than they should be, way older. Um, and so yeah, I definitely see it as a landing site. We'd have to do like several spaces to talk about that, but definitely something worth looking into, where um, some of the older languages are calendars in and of itself. They have different values and meanings that one can look into. So I feel like I have, like, when I look at the sort of like the philosophy and the spiritual philosophies of the world and their representations, I feel like I just have a leg up over all of them, because all of those, all of that knowledge is available to me, plus this, plus extra, and it fills the whole picture up. Like, if you had like a puzzle piece that was missing for everyone else, but then you had it. So yeah, there are many places in the world with seriously overlooked spiritual tradition and knowledge, and it's just lost, and that's it. So I don't believe mm, like if you looked into some of the more secretive sites, or some sort of old Greek library or something of that sort, I don't think you will find much different there in terms of like what you already have. You have to look in places you would not think to go if you want to derive a different type of outlook, a different type of information. So yeah, the Caucasus is definitely like that sort of place. Yeah, there's something very mystical here, 100%. Um, Not a question, Marius has not a question per se, but I wondered. from time to time, you could address the more mundane problems of life, like how to deal with fear, grief, depression, despondency. I think I talked about this on my last spaces quite extensively, and it's a good question. That spaces probably answers this really well. Articulate cynic, what's up with Eric Kirk? I mean, um, we did a full face read on her, and still I like held back a lot. So yeah, what's up with her is that she is just naturally not good at acting and expressing emotions. Like if you want a direct answer, like what's up with her, what's up with all these people who seemingly just can't act, you know, for the cameras anymore. Like that's what's up because the energy is different. You've grown better at seeing things, knowing them, so on and so forth. So it's someone who has a very low degree of emotion, who has a very low degree of natural empathy and sensitivity, especially for a woman who, for whatever reason, I don't care what her reason is, by the way. I have no horse in that race, but for whatever reason, is making an incredible effort to somehow show us an emotional side of her that doesn't exist. So why she does it, I have my own thoughts about it. Do I care? No, I don't. You can make your own conclusions. But as an expert in the field of face reading and physiognomy, I can tell you that for sure. She's someone who experiences a very dampened quality of emotion and emotional input, but someone who tries very, very hard to make it seem like she's going through emotional roller coasters when in truth she's, you know, rough as stone on the inside. Um, have you ever seen someone go against their physiognomic imprint or archetype, and what indicates that they would do that? As a follow-up question, does going against it mean the person has more free will? Sean, that's a cool question. Um, so I've seen people go against their physiognomic archetypes, and usually when we talk about this, we talk about the deviations layer. So why we call it the deviations layer is because obviously there is a set imprint of temperamental values and qualities that each phase has, and that set imprint is what we call the context giver. It's like the starting point of all of your behaviors, of how you view the world, and how you're predetermined to be viewing the world. And then if you deviate from that, right, the musculoskeletal structure of your physiognomy will naturally show that over time. So that means if I have what we would call a wrathful synergy, which is like the let's say the inner parts of the brows that are, um, how to say, bent downwards, right? We call it a wrathful synergy, right? This is a person who's, probably predisposed to being very, willful and focus oriented and very meticulous and detail orientated and have a very strong drive in the external world, right? If that is someone who now works to go inward, right, and humbles themselves and opens themselves up for how to say, gentleness and emotion, yes, their face will reflect that. It will change, but it will leave these sort of like muscular stretch marks. You can call that's the deviation layer. So yes, they have deviated from their natural imprint, but sometimes, like we say, for some people and for some archetypes, it's better to embody the opposite of their imprint, and for other archetypes, it's better to lead into their imprint and follow that imprint through. So, if you have a fairer imprint, we could say deviations on your face would probably not be a good thing, and that they would show sort of procession from a calm and gentle nature or gentle character into something more, you know, highness, or and vice versa, right? So yes, I see a lot of people every day who go against their imprints, and usually sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. And no, I don't think it means that the person has more um, mm, free will. I don't think that at all. It's a matter of choice. So both like leaning into your imprint and stepping away from your imprint, both of those things are a choice, right? And there's complexity to it. Again, like we said, like some people have mm, more wrath on their face, and other people have more fairness on their face. But it doesn't mean like, yeah, obviously, like the wrathful person is probably going to be more competitive and more willful and drive orientated. And they're going to express their emotions outwardly. Um, and they're just going to have a more hostile outlook on life in general, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're using this imprint in a negative way. So someone could have a lot of wrathful synergies on their face, but they could be using it in the form of becoming a successful sports person or athlete or so on and so forth, right? So it's all about like how you maneuver the imprint you have. Mm. Doesn't necessarily mean they have more free will. Um, what should a young male do to maintain balanced hormones other than sex that you mentioned many times before? Did I mention it many times before? Maybe I did. Naughty Uncle Jack. Um, the best thing to maintain hormone health, from my experience, and keep in mind, I spent a very large proponent of my youth just surviving the world. I was not raised in any sort of environment um, you know, where I was probably destined to grow up as a healthy person or a sane person or sane-minded person. So I have firsthand experience with living a very high stress lifestyle and chronic, chronically high stress lifestyle, eating the worst types of foods, sometimes starving, um, just not taking care of your body. And taking care of your body is a luxury. A lot of people think it's just something you either do or don't, but taking like the fact that you can spend a very large portion of your day um, taking care of your body and your vehicle in this world is a luxury, and you should treat it as such. So, if you want to maintain balanced hormones, you need to reduce the ignition trigger that is stress. By the way, for inflammation, that's the number one thing you should do. Inflammation is the cause of almost all of your health problems, and then down the line, chronic health issues, right? And if you're a young man today, I wish someone had taught me these things when I was young. But honestly, I think even if I had known, I don't think I would have been able to create a lifestyle for myself that would reduce general stress. So even if you're healthy, whatever, but you have a sort of like a unyielding, chronic stress from things environmental things you can't control, you probably have a lot of inflammation in your body. So hormones and everything that's linked to controlling that, like if you want like a very general understanding of it. So best thing you can do is whatever is anti-inflammatory, just do it. Um, hydrate, reduce stress. You could have the crappiest diet on the planet, but if there's no ignition point in the body, which is stress and cortisol release, right, you're not going to suffer a lot from it. But if you have a background of stress and you, I don't know, have a slightly bad diet, that's going to ruin your health and hormones and hormonal balance. So all like the whole body is interlinked. That's the number one thing you should know. And the primary culprit of, you know, almost every health issue you have is chronic stress. So keep in mind, I say chronic stress and not stress in general, because you want, like, especially as a male, you want a high degree of highly stressful and intense moments and situations in life. And then you want the contrast of absolute relaxation and self confidence. You need to maintain those two things as a man, because your body responds to these how to say not like the male body doesn't respond well to passivity and like a constant slow burning fire of stress. You're not designed to be stressed constantly. You understand that you're designed to be like your hormones balance out, your testosterone balances out when you're designed to be highly efficient and intense, and you're destroying your problems as a man. And then when you're not destroying problems, you're designed to be careless. I don't give a hell. I don't give a heck. That type of energy. So the a very interesting point is that most of the baddest men you know, like most of the most badass people you know, they probably have lower, resting rates of testosterone. Because they don't emotionally, especially over the years, because they don't emotionally respond to anything with fear and adrenaline, I'm sorry, after a while. And that's a crazy statistic because you don't want to overdo it as well. If you don't fear danger or threatened or so on and so forth from things in life that you should probably normally feel, threatened by, that actually tanks your testosterone, right? Because it doesn't inspire this spike, in the body, right? Like a Tony Soprano type of character who is just such a general badass, right? That, like, in a situation where people would be under significant amounts of stress or panicking, he just doesn't care, right? And that also tanks your testosterone and gets you a little bit fat, right? So you need to understand that there's contrast, and if you want good hormonal health, um, all hormones, every hormone, you need a contrasting lifestyle of something that's very difficult and intense and high stress, like, let's say, like heavy workouts at the gym. That's decent modern living. And then you want a carefree life outside of that. Like, you went out of the cave, you hunt for your food, right? You come back and now you can relax. That's the best way to keep your health, hormones, everything in check as a man, because that's what your body responds to. It's a very primal directive, and that primal directive never changed. And modern life is just brutal to the man. That's why in the West you see so many men are behaving like women. They're feminized. Even the men that are that convey some sort of, or try to convey some sort of masculinity to the world, are portrayed as, this great masculine figure. Even they are so effeminate, and their mannerisms and everything, like, they're very, very feminine. And you have to understand that there's a reason for this, because the modern lifestyle in general around the world, but especially in the West, because there's an incredible amount of bureaucracy and formality there, is just, it's it has the same meaning as stress, like a low level constant stress that never goes away, because you have these chores, and the men are not supposed to deal with chores. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying don't do your chores. I'm saying that men are not designed evolutionarily to deal with constant low effort chores at all times. We're designed to attack things and destroy them. You have a task, attack them and destroy them, right? Um, and then rest. Mm, What does eye and eye color signify? Many things, many things. Um, by Gavin. Well, um, without giving away like the obvious, like, too much. Um, Primarily, so there's several layers to eye color. Um, Primarily, what it signifies is your immediate, the electromagnetic qualities of your immediate auric field. That's what it signifies primarily, on a surface layer. Beyond the surface layer, it is a map that you can use to chart incredible depths of human body, the human soul, and so on and so forth. I don't talk about that stuff because, yeah, it's too much info that stops being functional after a certain point. And I know a lot of people have their ideas, and a lot of people think it's like it has to do with, health and body health and da 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 da, or toxicity in the gut or whatever. Like, people don't know shit about physiognomy. They don't even understand what a human being is, or what a face is. So how can they possibly know anything about these things? And I'm not going to be putting out, you know, any info on that, to be honest. Not because I feel competitive or whatever, but because I know that it's going to be spun in the worst possible way, with the worst possible interpretation. And then you're going to have people come out and say, like, oh, like, I knew this and I had this info for so long, and da da da, yada yada. um I want, mm, like, you don't really get to know these things, like the depths of these things, if you haven't really done your homework, right? Spiritual homework. And I want people to do their spiritual homework. But outside of that, the eye is like 90% of a physiognomy reading is in the eyes. But usually, you never want that. You never need that level of depth. But primarily, like, your your eye color, which I can't speak about, reveals what you are sympathetic to on an energetic level, and what kind of auric field you cast on this local, like, around your local human vessel, around your local human body. But where that electromagnetic charge comes from, what it signifies, what it's symbolic for, that I will keep to myself for the most part. For the most part. Um, but yeah, you can also know that the black of the eye signifies, your current egoic state overlaid on top of the creative archetypal force that gave birth to your consciousness behind it, right? So there's also little hints there. um, I'm currently reading The Holographic Universe. Where should I look next to learn more about quantum physics? That's a really good question. The Holographic Universe is a very good book on the holographic nature of reality, but a lot of people just misinterpret that. Like, what a hologram even is, and why we call the quantum realm a holographic realm, right? If you want to learn more about, I don't know about quantum physics in specific, to be honest with you, but um, quantum physics in the form that it exists in right now, at least on the forefront, the, mm, how to say, the closest thing to it is symbology, which I know sounds ridiculous. Okay. If you can learn to observe and study the symbolic archetypal meanings, what we call true names, of all kinds of phenomena and occurrences and forms and geometrical figures that make up our reality, you will understand beyond, like, you will obviously understand quantum physics in relation to, well, how these things are related, but you will understand beyond quantum physics and understand what quantum physics even is. So, mm, you need to learn how to discern information just from looking at the geometrical makeup of an object. And even with physiognomy, like, what is a human face? It is a very sophisticated, very complex geometrical vessel serving as the symbol of whatever its inherent function is. That's why physiognomy as a science exists, right? Because we understand that the relationship, geometry has with great like higher meaning is a sort of it's a parallel type of relationship. um Things and form embody temperaments, and temperaments embody ideals, and ideals embody archetypal forces, and those archetypal forces embody archetypal meanings and purposes. Like we talk about archetypal narratives and the archetypal story. And one such story is, like I said, the very fact that you're alive. You are a human being, so you were given birth. You have a starting point. That's already a narrative. So the universe has a narrative. It has a story, and the story of the universe is fractalized into everything. So you were born. Now you're going to go through a period of growth. You're going to have your experience here, and then you're going to perish. You're going to decay, and you're going to die. And you're going to cross over. You're going to die. And that is a narrative that exists inherently within the design of the universe. Understanding the function and meaning and purpose of that narrative opens up your third eye. And then there are several other narratives that exist in the world, and you have to be able to discern those and what they are. So don't look into books, look into everything around you. Like I say, nature is the oldest Bible. Nature is the most ancient Bible that exists on this planet. And it was written incredibly long ago, before you even existed. Study that Bible. Read nature, read life, read geometry, read faces, read everything like a book. But first, you have to learn what each letter means. But it's easy to learn what each letter means because you inherently and innately understand the geometric and temperamental makeup of an object just by viewing it. You could even go into depths about this and reconstruct the inherent language of life itself. And it's not any sort of language or any sort of like you know number that we know of right now. It's very different, right? And then everything is a human reinterpretation after that. Sorry, that's my phone. I'll actually answer. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. Mm, 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 mm. Do you see ADHD as a disorder or as a proclivity which certain archetypes embody? I see ADHD as a spectrum. Um, so obviously, it's a disorder. It's a disorder because it disables certain parts of the brain to function in a predictable, default way. But in no way is it something. How to say, a lot of the best people have are on the ADHD spectrum somehow. A lot of the most psychically capable people are on that spectrum somehow. So that should tell you something. With women, you say just focusing on building yourself and they'll come to you. Does this require any proactivity on your end, or do you purely just focus on building? Um, w- Women are naturally attracted to men who are going somewhere. And the type of women that are attracted to you depends on where you're going. So the only question you have to ask yourself is, well, where are you going, and who are you taking with you? She wants to go on an adventure. You're the penetrative force that is providing the adventure. You get to pick what that adventure is. And according to what adventure you pick, that's the type of women you will attract. Um, it's as simple as that. But when it comes to um, personal sympathies, right? So it's not like as a man you're just your path, and because you're your path, like someone will be with you because you're on the path, and when you stop being on that path, someone will stop being with you. That's not what it means. It's very very different from that. Um, what what? Like where undying loyalty comes from is your vision, and you have to embody your vision in a physical sense for a woman to be able to understand it and see it. Like she needs visual confirmation. And when you can embody that vision and follow it, and she can also see it, she becomes a follower, so to speak. She becomes a servant of that vision. And this is not meant to be. It's not meant to disempower the role of the woman or women in general, but women have a natural proclivity for that. Like women naturally want this. They need this. Like I said, women need a spiritual and moral authority that they hold respect for and who will hold them in check, because the nature of a woman is very it's very fiery. She knows she can step into many mistakes because of her nature, and deep down she wants to be convinced, and she wants to provide a helping hand or a supporting role. Mm, but she's never going to do that if you're going to follow her, because like if your vision and your goal and your path is her, then she's naturally disinterested. But if she can hop on and come with you on your path, then she's naturally interested. But yeah, you just have to change your path according to what kind of woman you want, right? How you know if you whether you're doing it right or wrong is, do you command undying loyalty? Nothing less than that. Nothing less than that. Again, I know men who can have, 50 or 60 girlfriends in a matter of months. It doesn't matter. It like your quality, as if you want to speak in like modern terms, if like what is alpha or whatever. What is alpha is a man's ability to command undying loyalty from the opposite sex. Um, if you can't do that, you can sleep with 100 prostitutes. No one will ever respect you, and you won't respect yourself either. But if you can do that, then there's something special about you and the place you're going. What does having a widow's peak hairline signify about a person? It's super duper depends on the person, because how these things are classified is so strange. Like some people think like a widow's peak is that, some people don't. Like it really depends on the person. That's why I don't look at things like in an isolated way. Um, when we talk about physiognomy and face reading, that's why it's contextual, and like the grander picture is painted by through a combination of different, synergies and features. Jack, what is your primal archetype? Oh, Solomon, these are good questions. My primal archetype is harmonizer. So I'm triple circle everywhere. That's why I have a proclivity to channel very well. And I'm very intuitive. Mm. But yeah, my youth was not easy or fun because I was not extroverted at all. Right. So I find it a little bit more difficult to interface with the physical world than most people. I had to learn that. Is the mind same as spirit? If not, then what is spirit? Well, spirit is the mind of spirit is the cosmic mind, and mind is the egoic mind. So spirit is living life force, I guess you could call that permeates everything. And the mind is what gives interpretation to spirit. It's difficult to explain. It's a longer question. It's a good question, but just a longer question. What is the correct way to balance yourself if the world is input output? How to find the median for success in life while making sure you don't have a super high ego or very low self esteem? I notice life feels better when you inflate your ego, and life sucks when you're in low self esteem. That's a very good question, and yeah, that is true. You have to understand that there are certain levels of advancement, and it's really important to know that the highest goal of life is to overcome dependency on the ego, but the ego is not a antagonistic force. It's not a bad thing by default. Um, it's more about coming to terms with your ego and understanding what it wants and why it wants it than somehow disregarding it or rejecting it. So you don't have to be a lot of people like mistake this when they say like, oh, like if you want spiritual advancement, you have to have low self-esteem and self-doubt and be overly humble. It's not true. Um, you don't even have to make a conscious effort to balance yourself at all, because the only test that comes with the input slash output design of the universe is that you don't become overly dependent on your ego. You don't become your ego. That's all that matters. So when you see all of these silly people out there, they're doing all kinds of weirdo formulaic, whatever you want to call it, magic, whatever. Sorry, this is my phone again. I might have to cut this short, you guys. I'm gonna have to do another. I'm gonna have to do another spaces. Kind of a busy day, but I will explain this on my next spaces. So good questions today, but mm, I have like a good 5-10 questions left, so I'm gonna do another one. So there you go. Sorry to cut it short, but yeah, Uncle Jack is busy today. Much love.